The call of the Hogs can be heard all the way to San Francisco.
You're listening to Pod at the Palace with Curtis Wilkerson on Inside Arkansas.
Good morning, everybody. Happy Wednesday. Happy hump day. Happy halfway to the weekend and the start of the College World Series day. Hope you guys are doing well. It's, we're just biding our time until this thing gets started and the run to the ring for Dave Van Horn. Hopefully they get there, man. Super, super pumped for that. But at any rate, welcome back to the Pod at the Palace, man. Hope you guys are doing good. Ready to talk a little bit of basketball. We'll get to that. Not gonna lie though, I've got a little bit of FOMO setting in. You know, John and Andrew are headed up to Omaha like today for practice Thursday and press conferences and live show Friday. Obviously, the first game on Saturday. And hey, as much as I'd love to be participating in every single bit of that, like leaving the very pregnant wife alone for 2 or more weeks is that's a tough one. So sticking by Michelle's side here for some baby things that we've got going on for a few days, and I'll be in Omaha early Monday for game 2, and then the rest of the charge as long as they take it, which is hopefully to a College World Series title. So excited about all that, and man, you guys know the drill. When I'm on location, I'll be doing some Pod at the Palace action, and in this case, it'll be walking around Omaha and in Charles Schwab Field. So that should be pretty fun there. We might record something or go live if we have some news out at Rocco's or DJ's Dugout or somewhere like that one day. Should be interesting. And I'm also working on finalizing an in-person interview down there with someone that would be a familiar name to folks. Would be a lot of fun. I think it would be a cool throwback. So we'll give you a little bit more information on that as we continue to hammer out the details. So it's going to be good times. Looking forward to a lot of exciting stuff here going on. We got some exciting stuff to talk about today. But before we do, let's talk about our sponsors. Today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at HD Roofing and Construction. Those storms can hit. They can hit unexpected. They can hit often, which they have throughout the course of the last few months here in Northwest Arkansas. And when they do, it's always nice to get a little bit of peace of mind about what's going on up top on the roof, right? Call HD Roofing and Construction. Have them come out and do a free inspection for you. I'd recommend asking for Garrett. He's the one that came out to my house and did a great job. And when you go with HD, you know that you're going to get professionalism, top quality materials, and expert installation for all of your roofing needs. Check them out. Go to hdarkansas.com. Give them a call to schedule that free inspection at 501-428-0429, or use that QR code in the top right-hand corner of your screen to go to the website and get all the information that you need. We're also brought to you by our partners over at Basis Health, who's changing the way that healthcare is delivered with those medical mobile services that they provide. I don't know about you guys, but when I get sick, the last thing I feel like doing is loading up in the car and driving across town. Sometimes that's dangerous. I mean, what if you're running a big fever? You got the chills, you got the shakes, you feel crummy. You really need to be driving all over the place with other people out there on the road. No, you don't like doctor's offices, waiting rooms. It gives you the ick. Why don't you just stay home and have them come to you? That's what Basis Health can provide. They'll come see you for primary care, urgent care, IV hydration, and more. Check them out at basishealth.org, or again, use the nifty little QR code in the top right-hand corner of your screen to get a little bit more information. Now let's get into it. This is a schedule talk day, and I'm excited about it, right? Because this is not. It's not like breaking news or anything, and it's not that surprising. It's expected, but what we've been anticipating here has come to fruition. And so now we can really talk about it and think about it. You never want to get too far ahead of yourselves. But according to John Rothstein, Arkansas and Kentucky will play just one time next season. We'll talk about why that sucks in a minute. But it will be in Fayetteville at Bud Walton Arena. Date still TBD. We'll find out about that a little bit later in the summer. Here, kitty, come on down. The return match, the grudge match. I cannot wait for this. This is going to be the biggest game in Bud Walton Arena in a long, long time. I mean, think back to it. We wound up having some moments. Obviously, the Duke game was really, really cool. But at the time, Arkansas was kind of fading. That wound up being a kind of a bad season for the Razorbacks. The Auburn game, you had no idea until you got closer to it. And even at that time, people hadn't really figured it out just yet with Arkansas, with the court storming and everything that went on there. There have been awesome environments, big-time games, big-time matchups for sure. But this one this hits a little bit different. Both teams, and we'll see if it plays out that way. And hopefully it does this season, where both teams kind of live up to their preseason expectations. Are going to be very, very high for both Arkansas and Kentucky. And just the storylines, the emotion, everything that's attached to it. This should be crazy, bonkers basketball at Bud Walton Arena. After all that happened last year, the shade, the hate, the heckling, the boos, all that stuff. Arkansas walks into Rupp Arena and just delivers the ultimate silencer with that beatdown that really completely altered the trajectory of the season for the Razorbacks. They were down bad. Were they 1-6 in SEC play at the time? And that was the win that kind of gave them the belief, rallied them together, and really sent this team on a kind of a tear through the rest of SEC play into the postseason Sweet 16. The rest is history, right? But for BBN, my friends, you missed your opportunity, because the run back here against the Razorbacks at Bud Walton Arena will, that now gets to be the most hostile environment that you have ever seen. All right. So, enjoy it the same way that we did going to Lexington. This Arkansas fan base, it's like an elephant, man. Like they never forget. Ask Tennessee baseball about the difference that the crowd made this past weekend, with the Tony Vitello DVH angle and, the antics and all that stuff. It wasn't lost on the Razorback faithful, and it was loud. It was rowdy. It was a true home field advantage. Now, double the size of the crowd, pack it into the Palace in Fayetteville. It's just going to be on tilt for this game. I can't wait to see exactly where it falls on the schedule. And, it's going to be another big one, not just because it could potentially be 2 top 10 teams playing, but we know all that goes into this. It runs a little bit deeper than that, doesn't it? With all the storylines. And Otega Owe and Brandon Garrison and Colin Chandler, Trent Noah, those guys, they're absolutely going to want to win one for the Gipper, Mark Pope there, right? But remember the amount of retention that Arkansas has on its roster for this game. Do you think that DJ Wagner forgot about getting boos rained down on him every single time he touched the ball at Rupp Arena, a place that he called home for a year? Do you think that's lost on him? I don't think so. You think Billy Richmond forgot about all the yapping at the end of the game and, the Kentucky fan heckling him and harassing him in the tunnel and everything that went down there? No, I think he probably remembers that. You think that Trevin Brazile and Carter Knox don't have this one circled, that they don't, Carter Knox was committed to Kentucky with Cal and winds up at Arkansas. No, not at all. I think that these guys probably have it circled on the calendar. It's going to be epic. It's going to be epic. It's going to be a lot of emotion, a lot of intensity. And, Razorback fans now get the opportunity to pay it forward a little bit. So on game day, man, be loud, be rowdy, boo, cheer, make it a night and an atmosphere, an environment, and a moment that we never forget. I said it when we walked out of Rupp Arena that night and did the Pot at the Palace post-game show in the Airbnb, which was, top, well, shoot, for me, it was probably number 1, number 2 in the moments that we've had as a company so far. The other one was beating Rick Pitino and St. John's there to get to the Sweet 16. But I said it at the time, in my opinion, Arkansas fans booed John Calipari louder at Bud Walton Arena when he was with Kentucky than Kentucky fans booed John Calipari at Rupp with Arkansas. There's a different type of energy in Bud Walton Arena when it's rocking. It's going to be for this. At the same time, though, and I mean this sincerely, I do hope that we are gracious hosts to those who come to town from BBN. I promise you, the weirdos on the internet that we have all the banter and the back and forth with all the time are not real people. We were in Lexington that entire week leading up to that game, doing shows at the damn KSR bar. We're in Rupp Arena, all out and about. Did not have a single negative interaction with anyone out there. Not one. Nice. Well, I mean, whoever stole John's luggage, that's his problem, not mine. I was fine. They didn't steal mine. But they were nice. I mean, they were hospitable, welcoming, gave us great food recommendations, bought us rounds of drinks, when we were out and about. And then they went nuts at the game, as you would expect. So it was good. Treat them right when they come into town. They deserve that. But hey, when you're in the building, lock the damn gates, right? As Sam Pittman would say. Also, hey, Razorback fans, please use your tickets. Do not resell on a secondary market for this game and let a bunch of blue infiltrate Bud Walton. We can't have it. And don't pick this for the Sharkensaw game either, student section. I think this is perfect for the Clifford, the Big Red Dog game. All right. I don't know when the last time that they did that, but when they did it in the past, I thought it was awesome. But it's definitely going to be a, white out, red out, something. There's going to be a theme for it. And, we'll see. It is negligent of the SEC, which loves its money and revenue, to not have this game played twice a year. And I was afraid that they were going to do this, which it sounds like they're just essentially taking the easy way out with the schedule and keeping it the exact same as last year, just flipping locations. Right. So like you have your same home and homes, and then you'll go, whoever you played at home last year, you play on the road, whatever. And then they might revamp it after that. I don't know that for sure, but this is kind of what it tells me, because if they were really revamping the whole model, why the heck would you not have Arkansas and Kentucky playing twice? There's no bigger matchup that the SEC can put together in basketball than these two teams. And they should be playing each other in Fayetteville and in Lexington every single year. So I'm anticipating that's what the schedule is going to look like. We'll see. I wish they would revamp it. Honestly, like, as far as I'm concerned, and I know some people will disagree with this, and that's okay. And I get it. I like newness and, seeing some different teams and different faces and everything like that too. Balance the schedule out a little bit by moving it to 20 games for the SEC. You get a couple extra home and homes, and voila, there you go. Let's do this thing, in my opinion. But not for now. And we know that at least next year, there's only going to be one meeting between these two teams. I'm glad it's in Fayetteville for the run back. And, we'll see what it looks like. Maybe just maybe folks will have some sense this time around and send College Game Day to Fayetteville. It should have been at Rupp last year. And it wasn't, like opting for Duke and North Carolina for the 400th time was a mistake. And honestly, sending Game Day to Fayetteville for Kentucky 2 years ago, the year that Arkansas sucked, was also a mistake, although it wound up being a really good game. This time around, it just makes all the sense in the world to do. So it also almost guarantees that they won't do it, right? Because when do they do something that makes sense? You know what I'm saying? Heck, and we don't know. So like the schedule is going to come out here soon. So if John Rothstein is leaking this info, it indicates that the SEC schedule, which will be the opponents and the locations at least, are going to be released here very soon. Now, they usually come out with the dates and the times in early September around Labor Day. So we'll be on the lookout for that. But would it surprise anyone if, say, last year we had this game and it was a, Saturday prime time at Rupp Arena? It would not surprise me at all if the SEC schedules this for a freaking, 6 p.m. Tuesday in Fayetteville or something. That would not surprise me at all if they did that. I really hope that they have enough foresight to put it on a Saturday. But I could absolutely see something like that. So time will tell. But I'm just glad that we're starting to see some scheduling news, right? Because we're getting this. In the meantime, it's just the pop on the schedule. It just continues to level up from last year, and it wasn't a bad one last year. You kind of got screwed with the Miami deal, but there was some stuff to be excited about. But my goodness, just at home, based on what we know, we're already looking at Kentucky coming to town, which is just going to be bigger than any game in Fayetteville last season by a wide margin. I know you had Alabama and stuff coming in, but this one hits different. Baylor, the best non-challenge related home non-conference game since Indiana, probably. Because who else did they have come in? I know West Virginia came to town that year for the Big 12 Challenge, but I think Baylor's a bigger opponent than that coming into town. And that was for the Challenge anyway. Yeah, and in Indiana, it was Indiana, Georgia Tech, I think, were some of just like the Lone Rangers that came to town. And then for the challenge, obviously the Big 12 is not a thing anymore, but we know Arkansas is going to get an ACC school in, which we should know about any day now, by the way. I'm kind of surprised it hasn't already happened. Who's it going to be? Well, usually the way they do this is you play at home one year, you play on the road the next. And so Arkansas was on the road last season, right, at Miami. And so they should get a home game this year. So it's going to come from, a list of just a certain number of schools. Like, so we have it narrowed down. Miami would be one of them. That's not going to happen. They're not going to do that game 2 years in a row. Duke could be one of them. That's not going to happen because you play them on a neutral site. So it's really going to come down to the list of Boston College, Louisville, Clemson, North Carolina State, or Virginia Tech. So basically what I'm saying is if it's Boston College or Virginia Tech, that sucks. Right? Those would be the two that would kind of stink there. Any of those other ones would be awesome. I mean, you get Will Wade in here, you get a blue blood North Carolina in town. Clemson's a perennial NCAA tournament second weekend team at this point. And Louisville, there's a lot of history there with John Calipari, and Pat Kelsey's got looks like a squad that might be top 10 caliber. So you're going to have a couple really, really good non-conference games in Bud Walton Arena. You're going to have Kentucky coming to town. That's awesome. For sure that you're going to see Duke on CBS on Thanksgiving in Chicago. That's electric. That is a far better game than Illinois and Kansas City, and I had fun with that one. And we now know that Arkansas and Houston will play not at Madison Square Garden, but at Barclays Center in Brooklyn on December 20th. I mean, sheesh, man. And the other, December 20th, that's a Saturday, by the way, which I think is awesome because it was a midweek for the Jimmy V Classic. I think this is just a standalone and a lot easier for people to do on the weekend. It's going to be it's going to be a fun one because the crowd at MSG for that Michigan game was Arkansas fans showed up and showed out. And that was impressive stuff. So this one might be even better. This could be the last game for Arkansas before the start of SEC play, by the way, because typically that's the case. But like last year, they played a December 30th non-con game because SEC play didn't start until the 4th. It was a little bit later, just the way with the calendar worked out. So we'll see, but it might be your last game before you get into your league, which would be a good idea. Because if you experience what Houston brings to the table, then you're not going to be concerned a week later about getting stuffed in a locker physically by Tennessee, which is exactly what happened to the Razorbacks last year. They were not ready for the physicality and the toughness and the defense and the atmosphere and none of that against Tennessee. They looked very much overwhelmed in that game. If you're playing Houston right before that, I think you're going to be okay. Now, either way, I mean, good grief. Christmas time in New York is about as good as it gets, folks. It really is. Trust me. Have family there. The in-laws are there. Looks like my son's first Christmas with his in-laws will also include a matchup against the potential number one team in the country, which I'm excited about. And I think I can do it too. I saw a lot of young babies at Baumwalker Stadium over the weekend, and they got earmuffs on, like headphones on. I think it probably helps them with the noise and everything like that. Something to consider. Probably won't let me bring my baby onto press row, so I might just sit in the crowd, have the wife come out, see if I can talk to in-laws. They're not the biggest basketball people in the world, but they're very aware of what I do and what I've got going on. They let me record, in their basement when we're down there visiting, which I'll probably be doing in a few days here anyway. So that's going to be a lot of fun, man. I'm looking forward to it. Hey, if you're going, buy your plane tickets now because it won't be cheap that time of year, I would imagine. But huge matchup. Houston, they return, Emmanuel Sharp, Milos Uzan, so two starters in the backcourt, JoJo Tugler in the front court, off of last year's runner-up, and great freshman class coming in. It's gonna be a heck of a test there for the Razorbacks, and it's gonna be awesome. And I don't think they've ever played it at Barclays. I could be wrong, but I don't remember a time that they've done that, and I don't think that building's been around for that long. So I had to go check Hogs-Cats confirm that, but it's going to be a cool and unique experience for sure. Hey, let's wrap up the show today and talk just real quickly about some approved rule changes going into the game next season. Now, we talked about the proposals for these actually last month when I was on Virginia Beach doing a little sunrise, walk and record situation down there. And they voted on them and they've approved several of them. Now, I'm going to read through them real quick and then we can chat about it and we'll get out of here. But let's see, what was the first one? Okay, so changes include a coach's challenge at any point in the game to review out-of-bounds calls, basket interference, goaltending, and whether a secondary defender was in the restricted area arc. So that's good. That's good to see. Coaches' challenges. I wonder how often John Calipari is going to get into those. And so what I saw from that is, where is it? Yeah, under the coaches' challenge rule, a team must have a timeout to request an instant replay review challenge. So if you're out of timeout, you can't do it. If the instant replay review challenge is successful, teams will be allowed to have one additional video review for the rest of the game, including overtime. If the first video review challenge is unsuccessful, the team loses the ability to challenge the rest of the game. So there you have it, right? Eric Musselman would have been, he would burn it before the first media timeout, but there's going to be some more strategery involved and that I like. Let's see. Officials moving forward can initiate video reviews on basket interference and goaltending and restricted arc plays. They can initiate it themselves in the last 2 minutes of the game and into overtime. They did a bunch of ran a bunch of numbers or whatever. And they said that the data showed that doing those reviews called minimal game interruptions, which I wholeheartedly disagreed with. I mean, the last 2 minutes of the game takes a half hour, and it's largely because every single thing gets reviewed there. So, there's that, right? Let's see. But officials cannot conduct video review on an out of bounds call unless it's through a coach's challenge. So, the whole thing in the last 2 minutes, right? It's got to be a coach's challenge. The officials can't do that themselves. Interesting. What else do we have? This was okay. And so this one was like the most up for debate for everyone. I noticed in the comments about going from halves to quarters. Well, they're not doing it right away, but they said in considering the decisions last month, the NCAA men's basketball committee had conversations about ways to continue this direction in the upcoming years, which includes positive momentum for moving the men's game from halves to quarters. Positive momentum, eh? The committee realizes there are hurdles to implementing the quarter format to the game, including the structuring of media timeouts to accommodate commercial inventory. The committee recommended NCAA Division I conferences create a joint working group to provide feedback on the potential change from halves to quarters. So it's not a thing yet, but there was enough positive momentum when they had their discussions about it that they're going to move forward and collect a bunch more data and get some recommendations from the conferences about this. So whether you're a fan or not, be on the lookout for it, right? I think there are pros and cons to it. We'll probably do an episode talking about the whole thing here at some point down the road. What else do we have? Let's see. The continuation rule is going into effect. Under the changes to the continuous motion rule, an offensive player who ends his dribble going toward the basket and absorbs contact from the defense will be permitted to pivot or complete the step the player is on and finish the field goal attempt. Currently, players are credited with field goals only when they are fouled while shooting the basketball. So getting up with the times, the continuation rule, you guys know the differences between how that works in the NBA versus college. There's this weird gray area there, and now it's going to be called a lot closer to what you see in the NBA, which I'm fine with. Other rule changes. This was the funny one that I remember. Officials will have the option to call a flagrant 1 foul when a player is contacted to the groin. A flagrant 1 foul results in 2 free throws for the offended team in possession of the ball. Previously, if you kick somebody in the nuts, it's either a common foul, which, or it's a flagrant 2 in which the player gets ejected. Like there was no just, technical, whatever, shoot 2 free throws, get the ball. It could be as simple as, you just get whistled for a foul. And if you're not in the bonus, you don't shoot a free throw at all for getting kicked in the berries there. or you're out of there. So it's good that they've approved the middle ground now. I think that makes a lot of sense. Let's see. If a player uses the rim to gain an advantage, it'll be a basket interference violation. We know that. Is that new? And then the only other one here is if one shot clock becomes inoperable, the shot clock at the other basket will remain on. So what they used to do is if one wasn't working, they would turn the other one off. That way the team on the other end of the floor wouldn't have the advantage. Because like if you're the point guard and you're up top and you can't see the shot clock, you don't know when it's running down. You got the, the countdown or whatever. Then it's not fair to go on the other end where someone can see it. Right. So they've made that change now, which is interesting to me. And I guess the thought process on it is like your point guard might have his back turned to where the shot clock is, but your other players would be able to see it and would be able to communicate. The coaches would be able to communicate, and it might be better to keep one on to where the officials and other people have ideas of what's going on as opposed to nobody at all. So anyway, there you have it. Cool scheduling news, few rule changes. All right. I like it. Some things are happening around here. There's always news when it comes to basketball, but I'm going to get out of here for the day. I'll be back tomorrow as always, bright and early, 6 a.m. Appreciate you guys for tuning in as always. It's been Curtis Wilkerson with Inside Arkansas and the Pod at the Palace. Subscribe where you need to subscribe, whether it's our YouTube channel or wherever you listen to your podcast. We'll see you next time. Have a good day.